Hey guys, Angry Monkey here with a different kind of video. Let's talk about Pokemon, but more specifically, do you remember Pokemania, the height of Pokemon's popularity in the late 1990s? I remember when Pokemon was brand new and joined in on the phenomenon too, so I want to go over the history of the early days of Pokemon and what life was like as a Pokemon fan during those days. Buckle up and get ready for a super long nostalgia trip and my longest video I've ever made. Before we go into how and why Pokemon got so big, we need to start from the beginning. Pokemon was created in 1996 by Satoshi Tajiri. Tajiri has said that his nickname was Dr. Bug because his favorite childhood hobby was collecting bugs and dreamed of being an entomologist when he grew up. Moving on from bugs, he was fascinated with arcade games, most notably Space Invaders, which came out in 1978. He was also inspired by Namco's Dig Dug, which came out in 1982, and even took apart his Famicom to see how it worked. This fascination with video games led to him writing and editing his own fanzine called Game Freak from 1981 to 1986, focusing on arcades. In 1990, after seeing two Game Boys linked together to communicate, this sparked an idea of bugs crawling back and forth. Pokemon was the natural evolution of his combined interests growing up, pun intended. He pitched the idea to Nintendo, and while they didn't fully grasp his concept, they were intrigued enough for legend Shigeru Miyamoto to take Tajiri under his wing, guiding him through the creation process. The creation of this Pocket Monsters idea took 6 years, and finally was released on February 27, 1996 as Pokemon Red and Green. Now that I got some of the basic history of Japan out of the way, let's explore how Pokemania took off in America. We'll continue talking about the anime first, then come back to the games. The Pokemon anime debuted in Japan on April 1st, 1997, and then in America on September 8th, 1998. It's a pretty simple premise of a show. A boy named Ash Ketchum, named Satoshi in Japanese as a throwback to the series' creator, dreams of becoming the world's greatest Pokemon master. However, he had a rough beginning as evident in the first episode. As Pikachu didn't listen to Ash, zapped him multiple times, and even laughed at him when Ash failed to catch a Rattata and a Pidgey. However, after being chased by a flock of angry Spearow and Ash willing to sacrifice himself to save his electric rodent who didn't even like him, Pikachu had a change of heart and decided to save Ash. The two got badly injured in Pikachu's super powerful Thundershock, but the Spearow were all defeated and Ash and Pikachu finally understood each other. A mysterious bird flies over the rainbow, which I will touch on that later, but Ash and Pikachu's journey officially began. On their journey, Ash befriends Misty, a fiery redhead who only followed him initially to remind him that he will have to buy her a new bike that Pikachu destroyed in that Thundershock explosion. And later Brock, a Pokemon gym leader who prefers learning about Pokemon breeding rather than battling. However, no series is complete without villains, and in the series' second episode we are greeted to the main antagonist of the Pokemon series, Team Rocket, most notably the duo of Jessie and James, and their companion, a talking Meowth. Their goal is to impress their boss by capturing the strongest and rarest Pokemon they can find, but they're kinda bad at their jobs. Pokemon anime is set up as a Monster of the Week show, where while there is a plot of Ash and friends journeying together, most episodes are standalone, each dealing with a different of the 151 monsters. Either they help a trainer capture a Pokemon they've been trying to catch for a while, or help mend a broken friendship between a trainer and a Pokemon, save a town or a city from a Pokemon that's terrorizing it, or battling a very powerful trainer. It's a simple premise, but it was fun to watch, drawing kids back day after day. In fact, there was over a year between the first episode debuting in Japan and America. They were able to crank out episodes in America every Monday through Friday for the first 40-some episodes, although a few of them were skipped for various reasons. We'll talk about the controversies in a little bit. But while watching the show is fun, just imagine being a Pokemon trainer yourself.
Hey, little buddy, wanna ride?
Pikachu!
Yeah, whatever.
And that dream came true on September 21st, 1998. A couple weeks after the anime first aired, kids were introduced to Pokemon Red and Blue versions, the slightly updated Red and Green games that Japan had. I'm sure if you're watching this, you know what a Pokemon game is like, but if you're used to the mechanics of Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield, these games are going to look and feel very different. And for those who don't know what Pokemon games are all about except for battling and trading monsters, here's a brief rundown of it. You're a Pokemon trainer who starts in Pallet Town ready to start his Pokemon journey. The town's Professor Oak gives you a choice of your starter Pokemon being the Fire-type Charmander, the Grass-type Bulbasaur, or the Water-type Squirtle. But you can only pick one, so make sure you pick your favorite. There's no wrong answers as they beat each other in a rock-paper-scissors relationship as fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. While progressing through the games, your Pokemon level up, learn stronger moves, and some go through a transformation or evolution and become even stronger creatures. As you progress through the game, you might come across a town or city that has a gym. Gyms in the Pokemon world are not a place to work out, but rather a place to test your strength against a powerful trainer called a gym leader. Think of this as fighting a boss in other games. If you defeat the gym leader, you are gifted a gym badge. Your goal is to collect all 8 gym badges before battling an even more powerful group of trainers known as the Elite Four. There are a few surprises throughout the game too, kind that would blow your mind as a child in 1998, and I'm only revealing these plot twists because these games are 25 years old now, and you most likely know these plot twists anyway. The final gym badge you get is none other than Giovanni, the head of Team Rocket himself. The shock on kids' faces when they realize that this mysterious 8th gym leader, whose artwork is always shrouded in mystery, whose gym is locked until you're at the end of the game, is overrun by the criminal organization that you've been battling since the beginning of the game. And the other big surprise was when you finally battled the Elite Four, the 4 most powerful trainers in the game. You finally become a Pokemon Master after defeating Lance, who uses Dragon-type Pokemon, a type so rare you probably didn't know it had a type back then. He reveals to you that you are not yet the champion. There was a trainer who beat you to that title, and you need to battle him first in order to become champion. Who is this mysterious other strong trainer? You walk into the next room to find your rival Gary, or Blue, or Buttface, spelled with only one T because of limitations. You can only have a name that's 7 letters long, standing there. The guy who's been one step ahead of you the entire game is your final challenge before becoming champion, and it's an ultimate showdown. The music is unsettling and all over the place as he sends out the most balanced team of any other trainer in the game. You need to defeat him with an equally balanced team if you want to defeat him. I wasn't able to play the Pokemon games until I got my first Game Boy in 2002, coincidentally a couple months before I turned 10 years old. I may have followed the show, had the toys, watched the movies, etc., but my mom said that video games would rob me of my imagination, so video games were forbidden in my house. That's funny to reflect on that, knowing how many games and consoles I have now, but that might be why too. Anyway, a kid at summer camp gave me his old original Game Boy, and my mom took me to Walmart next door when she picked me up to buy batteries and my very first video game. Despite there being many options available in 2002, both for Pokemon and other types of games, I wanted to start from the beginning with the nostalgic games of the 90s, so I picked Pokemon Blue version. It was fitting because I liked blue more than red, the color I mean, and after years and years of deciding if I ever got a Pokemon game, who would I start with? I mean, Charizard was my favorite Pokemon in the 90s, but I decided, no, my first starter ever is going to be Squirtle. I named him Squirty the Squirtle, but I misspelled it, so he was Squiddy for the first major chunk of the game until I got to Lavender Town to change his name. I understood the idea of exploring the region and battling the gym leaders to collect badges because I've seen Ash do it in the show, and I was so excited to battle Brock and Misty, Ash's companions in the show, with my starter Squiddy and the other Pokemon I've captured along the way. I remember on my very first day of playing, I managed to capture a Pikachu in Viridian Forest, which was either my first Pokemon I caught or one of my first. I named him Shocky, a name I still sometimes nickname Pikachu in games to this day. I know I had a Caterpie on my team too, which is cool because Ash caught one early in the show as well. I can recall my final team, though I never actually beat the Elite Four in my original playthrough because I was too afraid they'd destroy me, but my team was pretty strong and I think I would have been alright. In fact, I know I would have been alright with my level 60 Blastoise, level 60 Raichu, level 52 Pidgeot, level 33 Victreebel, level 31 Rhyhorn, and level 134 Golduck. Wait, level 134? Impossible! A Pokemon can't go above level 100. You're lying. Nope, it's the honest truth. Though he did get corrected when he got enough experience points to level down to level 100. So let's talk about these issues with Pokemon Red and Blue version. I adore the old Pokemon games of Red and Blue because, like I said, they were my intro to the games and based around the original 150 Pokemon, but oh man were there problems. Game-breaking problems. For one, you can capture literal glitches. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, that deserves a video of its own, but you talk to the old man who teaches you how to catch Pokemon, then fly to Cinnabar Island, surf right on the border and encounter a level 134 Golduck, or a level 145 Starmie, or a 139 Abra, or a literal glitch known as a missing no, or missing number. It's typeless and knows the moves Sky Attack, and Water Gun, if I'm remembering correctly. Catch that glitch Pokemon and you'll have all 8 badges, even if you only have 5 badges. Now you have 8. You can even exploit a trick in Safari Zone enter in, fly out, and go to another city and walk around, but still be on the 500-step Safari Zone counter, then be warped back to the entrance of the Safari Zone, leave, and find yourself in Glitch City. A weird place where you'll find half houses, half bodies of water, and so much weirdness. By the way, guys, if you do this, don't do Cycling Road, because the game will still pull your trainer down, and that's how I got stuck here. The game was also incredibly unbalanced, especially with psychic types, which had pretty much no weaknesses. An in-game character said psychics are afraid of ghosts and bugs, which is a hint of psychics being weak to bug-type Pokemon and ghost-type Pokemon. However, the problem here is, in Gen 1 games, the coding actually made Psychic immune to ghost types, and even if they weren't, the only ghost types are the Ghastly line, which Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar are all weak to Psychic since they're all part poison. And when it comes to bug types, the only bug type moves that do damage are Twin Needle, which were only part of the Beedrill line, which part poison Pokemon, Leech Life, a very weak version of Absorb that can only be learned by Zubat, Golbat, Venonat, Venomoth, who are all part poison, and Paras and Parasect. Pin Missile, which can only be learned by Jolteon, which is an electric type, but both moves are incredibly weak, it's not worth it. And then String Shot, which only lowers your speed and does no damage. There, I listed all the bug type moves in Gen 1. There has to be a remedy to this extreme unbalance to Psychic types. We'll get to that in a bit. And the reason why I'm focusing so much on Psychic types is because of the Saffron City gym leader Sabrina, who specializes in Psychic types. Most fans of Gen 1 agree that she is the hardest gym leader, even though she's only the 6th gym leader, mostly because of the lack of weaknesses of Psychic types. Dragon types also have their share of imbalances, but Dragon types are so rare that outside of Lance, you probably won't find any Dragon type trainers anyway. One of the most fun parts of Pokemon in the 90s, related to the games, anime, everything, were the playground rumors. Whether it's a rumor in the games or in the show or whatever, I remember kids telling me that Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise had evolved forms. Charcoal was Charizard's evolved form, apparently. And remember, this is 1998-99. We couldn't Google this. Google was created in 1998. You think there was a lot of Pokemon info on Google in 1998? Probably not. We had guidebooks and word of mouth to learn more things about Pokemon. And since it's 1998, this is 15 years before Mega Evolutions were a thing. There was also the rumor of the mysterious 151st Pokemon Mew found under a truck in Vermilion City. Whether or not that's actually a thing, I don't know. What were some rumors you heard as a kid?
Look who's back. And this time, the two of you are partners in the latest installment of the Pokemon Saga.
Pokemon Red and Blue were followed by Yellow version on September 12, 1998 in Japan and October 19, 1999. And this game follows closer to the anime and is the definitive way to play a Gen 1 Pokemon game. The Pokemon sprites got a complete overhaul and most of them look so much better. Instead of starting out with Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle, you instead start with Pikachu, and the Pikachu follows you like Ash's does in the show. You even build up the friendship with it like he does in the show. First get it, it has its back turned to you, but as your adventure goes on, your Pikachu will get hearts around its head to show it loves you. At a couple points, you encounter Jesse and James instead of just a generic Team Rocket grunt. Your rival, instead of getting the starter Pokemon that beats yours, gets an Eevee instead, and his Eevee will evolve depending on how well you do against him in the first couple battles. Now let's boot up my copy of Yellow version here. I haven't touched this file in about 20 years, so I don't know if it's still there. I doubt it's still there. Oh man, my actual legit save file from whenever this was. This is my original Yellow version file. This team is the team that I started off with when I bought my Yellow version brand new. Whoa. So I got a level 100 Mew. Shocky, my Pikachu. A Zapdos named Zappy. Venusaur. A Mewtwo, and a Blastoise. And I remember I traded that Blastoise from my one of my copies of Blue version because I couldn't beat Brock because I didn't know about catching a Mankey before getting to Pewter City. So I traded over a Wartortle at like level 18 or whatever, and well, he didn't listen, so I got to deal with a sleeping Wartortle most of the time. The gym leaders have a slightly different team lineup too, even though the story and characters are for the most part the same. Like Lieutenant Surge has a level 28 Raichu instead of a level 21 Voltorb, level 18 Pikachu, and level 24 Raichu. so the one Raichu is way stronger, but that's all he has. A single but very powerful Raichu. Anyway, like I said, story's the same, collect the badges, take down Team Rocket, battle Elite Four.
Today's assignment, photograph the elusive Pokemon. How do you do it? You're gonna be fast.
Another game I want to cover real quick is Pokemon Snap, the first Nintendo 64 Pokemon game. It was released in Japan on March 21st, 1999, in North America on July 26th that same year. A universally praised game by Pokemon fans for the unique mechanic of not battling Pokemon, but being on a track as you go through and take pictures. You score higher points based on how good your picture is, how centered the Pokemon is, if they're looking at the camera, if they're doing a dynamic pose, etc. I have a full series where myself and Citrus play through the game, so check that out. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, story time. When I was a wee lad in Blockbuster, which, for those who don't know, Blockbuster was a chain of stores where you could rent video games and movies, there was a display of this game out, and I was watching these two girls were trying to play it, and they got to this part, and they were just stymied. They just stared at their controller, and they stared at the screen, and they were pressing all these buttons, and they couldn't figure out that there was a button underneath the controller.
Well, what really confused me is my first time playing this was on the Wii's Virtual Console, and so I'm using a GameCube controller, and it's one of the I'm hitting the Z button, the little purple Z button. It's one of those, it's not doing anything. I learned that in that one, the L button is the Z button.
Oh yeah, 'cause, yeah.
Oh, and before I forget, players were able to bring their copy of Pokemon Snap to Blockbuster and actually print out their Pokemon photographs to have them in real life. I sadly didn't participate in that or know about that until years later, but that is a cool thing.
Something's gone wrong in the happy-go-lucky world of Nintendo. Introducing Super
I'm sure some in the
Smash
comment
Brothers.
section would point this out, so let's go ahead and address this. Super Smash Bros. Was released before Pokemon Snap on April 26, 1999 in America. So I guess before Pokemon Snap, Pikachu and the unlockable Jigglypuff became playable characters in Nintendo's iconic crossover fighting game, along with Mario, Link, Kirby, and others. The Pokeball item can summon one of 13 random Pokemon to fight with you for a few seconds. It might be strong like Charizard or Blastoise, or something like a Goldeen that doesn't do anything at all. You can also select the Saffron City stage to battle on top of the iconic Silphco building. I may not have played the games until Gold and Silver came out, possibly even after Crystal came out, but I was still able to participate in Pokemania in other ways. I already mentioned the anime, but also in the toys and merchandise, and this will be a huge bulk of the video and probably my favorite part of the video to talk about.
Pokemon are everywhere. They're invading. Each with powers more awesome than the next. Pokemon are burning with flame power. Their whirlwind power blows them away. There's nowhere to hide.
Yikes!
Can they be mastered?
Pikachu?
Yes. The more Pokemon you catch, the more powers you gain. You can put Pokemon power in your pocket.
Gotta catch 'em all!
Pokemon Ball Blasters battle figures.
Kids in the late 90s remember that Pokemon was everywhere and everything was Pokemon branded. Pop-Tarts and cereal and everything else in between. I found my old t-shirts. These are my original t-shirts, all dated 2000, which means I was 7, not yet 8 when I got these. I remember my cousin from Florida got me that Gyarados one. I loved the holographic look of it, but I also remember the holographic was multicolored, but after my mom washed it, it faded to just silver. But it still looked cool. This red Pokemon shirt, I don't know what that stain is, but I do remember having the shirt. Charizard, like I said earlier, was my favorite Pokemon back in the 90s, so of course I had to get a shirt with Charizard on it. The flames on it are really cool, almost a tie-dye effect. And then lastly, of course, is a Pikachu shirt. I know at one point I had Pokemon swim trunks, but I most likely don't have those anymore, but I think one of those I had was Charizard. And here are some Pokemon plushes dated 1998. This Pikachu I remember I got from Goodwill. He's in pretty good shape for being a Goodwill plush from 1998, although his one eye has rubbed off. The Psyduck I think I got brand new, and yes, I got these back in the day. Probably got these in either 99 or 2000. This big guy, look at this beast. I remember I got him at a local amusement park. I remember my cousin was with me,
And after I won Charizard, my parents helped him win a Pokemon too, which of course he had to pick a Blastoise so his Pokemon could beat my Pokemon. Oh yeah, and introducing the I Choose You talking Pikachu. You press his hands and he actually talks. His mouth moves and his ears wiggle. It's really cute, but what's funny is that when you leave him alone for a minute, he either gets upset that you left him alone, or he gets bored that you're not playing with him with this passive-aggressive Pika Pika. I also have some Pokemon office supplies too. Here's a Pikachu stapler, where you stick the paper in his tail and push in on his tail and staple it down. Of course, these are miniature staples, so I don't have any to replace them. A Jigglypuff tape dispenser, where it has some really weak tape that I had to fight to peel it and hope it didn't split on me more than I was actually able to use it effectively. If it weren't a cool Jigglypuff tape dispenser, I'd say this was the worst tape dispenser I've ever seen. And of course it's a thin tape roll, so you can't even use a regular tape roll on it. Next is a Poliwhirl tape measure, which goes all the way to 39 inches and then rolls up by grabbing the thing on the spiral, and watch the spiral hypnotize you as you roll the tape measure. This was actually pretty cool and hypnotized you into thinking it was pretty cool too, right? It also hypnotized you into hitting that subscribe button too. Last is this Bulbasaur pencil sharpener, and look at that, I actually still have some pencil shavings in it. I wonder how old these shavings are. Somewhere I also have a Squirtle desk organizer that you can stick pens, pencils, markers, etc. in it, and stick erasers and small stuff underneath it. I know I still have it somewhere, but I can't find it sadly. I know I didn't get rid of it. When we had an exchange student from Germany living with us, he gave me that as a gift, so it has a lot of sentimental value to me to get rid of it. I just can't find it. I know I have this around here too, but I had to gather pictures off the internet of a Pokemon towel featuring Pikachu in the middle and blue and white of the first 150 Pokemon. I like to think mine is in better shape. Like, I don't want to know what that brown spot is on that Pidgey. Ew. There was also an officially licensed Pokemon board game, the Pokemon Master Trainer, where you would take your little Ash figure and you would move him around the board. So if you lay it on a city, for example, so Celadon is to draw 2 item cards, which could be like a Master Ball and, well, an Ultra Ball. That's pretty cool. And you can use those for when you encounter a Pokemon. So like this one, and you would flip that over. So I got a Rapidash there. And you would roll the dice, and you would try to roll what is on that. So naturally, this is one of the harder ones, because if you look at one of the pink ones that's early on, you need to roll a 3, 4, or 5, so that's relatively easy. But if you roll a 5, and you're like, well, I only rolled a 2, that's okay. You can play the Master Ball card, which adds or subtracts 1, 2, 3, or 4 to it. So it's not 100%, but since I rolled a 2, I add 3 to that. I got my Rapidash. One of the other things that's really cool is if you land on an event space, you could win a trip to the Unknown Dungeon, which is down here. And you could possibly win a legendary. So you would flip that over. You got to roll that dice. Get a 6. You win your legendary. But the problem is with this game is kind of a friendship ender like Mario Party would be. Because let's just say that you have a friend who lays down this trade card here and thinks, hey, I'm going to take that Moltres. I think you'll enjoy this Caterpie. And so, there you go. So then your little buddy here has a Moltres. And there's nothing you can do about it unless you lay down a Pokédoll card, which basically blocks another trainer from trading or battling with you. Anyway, make your way all the way down to Cinnabar Island, which then puts you at the Indigo Plateau. Enter here, and then battle one of the members of Elite Four. So it's got the Elite Four plus Gary, or Blue, or Buttface, whatever you want to call him. Beat him, and you win. So that's how that one works. By the way, if you want to see a full playthrough of this with me and people, let me know. I don't know how to get a board game to record, because this is a pretty big board, but I don't know. I guess it's possible for like me and Citrus and Kaj, Phoenix, I doubt it, but we might be able to possibly play a board game. I've never done that on the channel, but I'm open to the idea. Or if you just want to see a video where I talk about this in a little bit more detail, that's fine too. Let me know. But we're not done with board games yet, because there is a sequel, the Pokemon Master Trainer 2, I guess they would call it. Similar concept. You go around the board, although some changes they added were the inclusion of gym badges. So you would beat the trainer, so in this case, Faulkner, the first gym leader, beat his Pidgeotto, and you would win a badge. And I'm assuming how it works, whoever has the most badges by the time they get to the Indigo Plateau, or Mount Silver, or Mount Shirogane, apparently. Look at that. I never noticed Shirogane Mount. So that's Mount Silver. So it's kind of weird to have like the Japanese still in there. But one of the other things that's really cool is they added in trainer rosters where you can have your entire team of 6 on you, and if they faint, you flip them over like that. And I think if they win a battle, then you could put one of these little tabs on there. So in a lot of ways, this is better, but there are still some frustrating features to it that are also friendship enders, such as the Steel Plus chip. So they can lay down that and be like, oh, I'm going to steal one off your Croconaw, and I'm going to give it to my Ninetales over here. Well, yeah, you can do that. But they still have the other standard cards. Get a Master Ball to increase your roll. They still have the Encounter a Legendary, which they have the greatest Pokemon ever, Lugia, on it. More on that in a bit. And I know what you're thinking on these. These kind of look like Pogs, don't they? Yeah, they kind of are. Which, I guess that takes us to the next segment of the video. In all Tomy branded Pokemon toys, you get a couple Pokemon and Pogs to go with them. There were even a few different packs too. There were 2-stage evolution lines that come with a Master Ball for some reason. Here's the Master Ball. Why you would want to catch a Mankey and a Primeape and a Master Ball is beyond me. Or a Tangela and a Weezing and a Master Ball. I don't know, but I know I wanted this one because James has a Weezing in the show, and I know I wanted that for that reason. And, well, I didn't have a Tangela. And there were also these 3-packs that came with this little Game Boy launcher. So one of the 3-packs I remember getting was a Pidgeot, an Eevee, and I think Raichu is the third one. So I don't really know how the game works, but you take the little Pokeball, push the button, hit the Pokemon, and then put the Pog in the ball, I guess? Something like that. There are a few different ones, and I've got a whole bunch of different Pogs here. Here's just a few of them that I pulled out. Here's a Venonat, Scyther, Metapod, Vulpix, and Eevee. I've got a whole container full of these. But I also remember the occasional 5-packs as well. And one of them I want to highlight was, I remember getting one that had a Caterpie, a Metapod, and a Butterfree. Ignore the antenna. The original ones broke off, so I had to put new ones on them. But was also really weird was it also came with a Weedle and a Venonat. So why? Yeah, it was a bug pack. But why Weedle and Venonat, I don't know. Venonat and Venomoth would have made more sense, but I remember getting a Venonat and Venomoth in another one of the Master Ball sets. But I remember being a kid thinking that Weedle evolved into Venonat, because, well, why else would they put those in there if they don't go together? Another one I remember is this 3 set of Pikachu, which this came in a different set. I think this came with Scyther and Chansey or something, I don't remember. But why you would get a 3-pack of Pikachu, I don't know. I get it. Pikachu's popular. You want one for your collection, but Pikachu are so easy to get in toys. I've got 7 or 8 in my container over here. In fact, let me just show you this massive container of Pokemon toys that I actually have. Yeah, look at all these things. And you got new ones in there. You got like Incineroar. Here's a Kyogre. Oh, look, Joe. It's your boy. It's unscripted. You can see my script there. But yeah, I've got so many different Pokemon toys. Some of them new, some of them old. I know this Nidorino's pretty old. Yeah, he's dated 2000. Some of them do things. Some of them don't. But anyway, I just wanted to show off some of the Pokemon toys there. But I'm not done showing off specific ones just yet. Oh yeah, and here was the Scyther and the Chansey that I mentioned earlier. I think those came with the Pikachu, but I don't remember. I remember my excitement when I first started collecting Pokemon toys. My dad came home from work with a Pikachu keychain, and yes, this is the same one. Of course, it's missing the keychain now, but this jump-started my entire collection. I remember a Friday night at Target in the toy aisle, and I got a few more Pokemon toys. I remember I got this Charmander. Yeah, he's got a slit in his side there, but I remember getting that Charmander. And I remember I got this Bulbasaur. And this Bulbasaur is pretty cool because he came in a Pokeball like this, which I'm pretty sure that Pikachu did too, but well, this Pokeball is broken. But you would push that open like that. Here's one that works. Yeah, so you just put the Pokemon in there like that, and the keychain comes out the side. You could attach it to your belt, and then send it out into battle. Bulbasaur, I choose you. There we go. I know I got this Meowth around that same time too. Ignore his mustache and missing whisker up here, but I've had him for a while. Yeah, this is dated 1999, so yeah, he's old. Which I really like these Pokeball figures. Here's a Gengar. He's completely see-through. That's really cool. Here's a Charizard. I've got a whole bunch of these. I've got a whole container here full of Pokeballs. Yeah, I've got these kind of Pokeballs. A lot of them don't open anymore. Yeah, that's like 3 of them in a row that don't. A bunch of Master Balls. Some more of the Bat Poke Game Boys. Now the balls have been cut because they all got tangled together. There we go, that one still pops open. Print out some badges so that way I can be a little trainer. Now the really cool one was the Mewtwo, because I didn't know what a Master Ball was, but he came with a special purple Pokeball. But yet, Mew came in just a regular old Pokeball. But those were a few more I wanted to highlight. I also remember thinking it would be awesome if they made an Ash figure, and I also needed a Squirtle figure too, so that way I would have all 3 starters. Well, next day we were at Walmart, and I found it. I found an Ash figure with a Squirtle, and it came with a Pokeball. And I'm like, that's exactly what I needed. Now, this isn't my original Ash because I lost him at summer camp. I cried. But a kid at summer camp said that he had the exact same Ash and he'll bring it with him the next day, that I could have it. So, thank you, Dylan. I doubt you remember me, but I remember you, and I still have this Ash figure after all these years. I also remember at some point, I got a Misty that came with a Starmie and a Pokeball, and a Brock that came with a Vulpix and a Pokeball. And I remember at Johnny's Toys. Are they local? Or are they chain? I don't know. But they're extinct anyway, unfortunately. But I got a Jesse and James that came together. And what was weird is they looked like they were imported. There was a lot of Japanese characters on their box, which was weird. But that wasn't the only imported item I got. This Golduck came with a Psyduck. I don't have that Psyduck anymore. I traded it away for a figure I didn't have because it was a duplicate. But this Golduck, I remember, he also was an imported item as well. I mean, he's still official. He still says Tomy on the back and everything. But I remember getting a few imported toys as well, and this is before I even learned that Pokemon was Japanese. But still, that's pretty cool. I remember we were at a store in the mall that had a massive Pokemon area, and I bought this Pikachu Stress toy. His ear got torn off because he's old. You can also see there that his leg's about to come off too. But I got that, and I got a Pokemon book too. And yes, this is my original book from back in the day. I remember my mom read it to me. And it's basically just episodes from the show. This one I remember being Ash getting Pikachu. I think it mentions Viridian Forest as well. And then kind of the climax would be the Electric Shock Showdown, Pikachu versus Lieutenant Surge's Raichu. There's a few pictures, of course, but it's mostly just a book, small book. But I got a bunch of these too. Some of these were from back in the day. Some of these I remember getting a lot later. But I got that one. I got Island of the Giant Pokemon. Attack of the Prehistoric Pokemon. Night in the Haunted Tower. This one was one of my favorites because it was all about the Sabrina and going to Lavender Town to get a ghost Pokemon. That was a great book. Team Rocket Blasts Off. Charizard Go. This was another one of my favorites because, again, Charizard was my favorite Pokemon at the time. This is pretty much all about Ash getting Charmander. I think it also involves, battling the Paris as a Charmeleon. And then, of course, the climax being battling Blaine to get the Volcano Badge. I read this one so many times. Showdown in Cerulean City. Return to the Squirtle Squad. This was basically a flashback of Ash getting Squirtle. And then I guess there's kind of a little bit of a jump because we go to the Orange Islands. This one I got a little bit later. You can see the half-price book sticker on there, so this one I got a little bit later. But I got that one. And I got Secret of the Pink Pokemon, which is Pinken Island. I remember kind of about that. And then the 4-Star Challenge, which I guess is all about Ash battling, what's his name, Drake, I guess? No? I guess this is him just getting the badges. That's cool. Yeah, okay. So then we're going to jump from book 11 to book 16. This is the one where he battles Drake to get the trophy. And then Go West Young Ash. So this is the only Johto one that I have. A few other ones that I got was Spell of the Unknown is basically Pokemon 3 but in book form. But it also has some pictures, like some colored pictures from the movie and stuff. That's pretty cool. I also got this Pokemon Junior. So it's basically just one episode. It's got really big font. It's the Pikahuna, I think was the name of the episode. So it's all about that. Mewtwo Strikes Back. I got that one a little bit later, but it's also got pictures from the movie and stuff, and I'll talk about the movie more in a little bit. This Pokemon Pop Quiz book. You can see I looked at this a lot, but it's basically like quizzing you on stuff. But that one was fun to go through. A few other Pokemon books I got this one that's all about Bye Bye Butterfree. That episode gives you feels, doesn't it? But this is basically just a retelling of the episode. Same with Attack of the Prehistoric Pokemon. I got this before I got the other one. That's kind of a way to kind of have it, but same thing. It's just a retelling of that episode. And Electric Shock Showdown. Again, just talking about that episode. Ash defeating Lieutenant Surge to get the Thunder Badge. But it's a great episode. So I got that in book form. This one's a little bit later because it's got Pichu in it. But How to Draw Pokemon. You can see it's got a bunch of Johto Pokemon, Ash's team during the Johto This is early Johto, I guess, because Bulbasaur's still on the team, but teaching how to draw some Pokemon, that's pretty cool. I remember I got this from a friend in 4th grade. He gave this book to me because I gave him a piece of gum. But you can, I don't know, this is definitely my handwriting. So I used this briefly with blue version. So like Squirtle, for example, that was my starter, and I named him Squirty, and I spelled it wrong even here because it's EY. I didn't give it an EY, I don't think. I don't know. It's 20 some years ago. How I got it and when I got it and where I got it. Yeah, that's kind of cool though. And you can use this to see on what Pokemon you still need to capture. I don't know why some of these are circled or whatever. But I got that. And I used these on vacation. Came with some magnets. I might have the magnet somewhere. But yeah, these were to fill you up with connect the dots and word searches, mazes. Who's that Pokemon? And you gotta solve it. Oh, that's so complicated. I wonder what it is. I wonder what it is. I don't know. Anyway, I got that one. I got this one too. Same thing. So that was cool. There's a Pikachu I drew. Isn't that the greatest Pikachu ever? Speaking of which, I might as well show you some artwork that I did. These are all from 2nd to 4th grade, probably all around the time of 2nd grade. But I want to show all these to you guys anyway, because these are actual Pokemon drawings I did when I was a kid, because Pokemon was everything to me as a kid. I called this Pokemon Land, and I drew some fire types. So you got Flareon, Charmander, Charmeleon, and Charizard. These are top tier drawing abilities here. As well as a Growlithe and an Arcanine and a Moltres. And then my psychic types, I drew a Mr. Mime, a Mewtwo, I think that's a Jinx with the yellow hair, and a Mew with a tail that's bigger than him. Okay. And I spelled psychic really wrong too. My water and ice types, I guess because there's not a lot of ice types in Gen 1, so I just combined all the ice and water types together. So, a Psyduck, Horsey, that's a horrible Blastoise. A Golduck, that's supposed to be a Lapras, okay. Squirtle, there's a Staryu down there, there's a Wartortle, there's a Seal, that blob is a Magikarp apparently. There's a crossed out Blastoise that looked a lot better than the other Blastoise I drew. That's a Gyarados, and I can't tell what that other thing is. My grass, poison, bug types, okay. Well, I see a Bulbasaur and a Venusaur. No. Is that a Ivysaur that's next to the Bulbasaur? I don't know what that is, because I thought that was Venusaur, but Venusaur is over here. There's a couple Metapod. Above the Venusaur, I think that's supposed to be a Weezing. And next to that is a Coughing. There's a Weepinbell in the trees. There's a Beedrill and a Butterfree flying in the air. There's an Arbok that's dead. It looks like above grass. What happened there? Okay, my normal types. There's an Eevee. There's a Nurse Joy Chansey and a Meowth. Okay, my electric types. Really poorly drawn Zapdos. There's a Pikachu, a Raichu, a Jolteon apparently, Electabuzz. There's a Charizard that I drew and colored in and cut out and all that. And I guess these are all Pokemon that are using attacks. So there's a Gengar using, I guess, a Hypnosis or a Nightshade. There's a Charizard using a Fire Spin. Bellsprout using Vine Whip. There's just a Voltorb Electrode because it's Voltorb Electrode. Well, I was going to say that you can't draw those wrong, but you can, because they look like two Voltorbs, but the one has a frowny face. There's a Pikachu, a Bulbasaur, a Weedle, and a Ghastly using Lick. There's a Coughing, and I think that's a Lickitung. Okay. And I'm sure I got more of them out there, but that's just the ones I found. One more book I want to highlight is this Extreme Pokemon, the Guide for the Ultimate Fan. This is mostly Orange Islands related stuff. Now it does have a quiz section. True or false. It's got classic Pokemon matches, so basically like getting the Coral Eye badge, stuff like that, and you pick the winner. Pokemon like the personality quiz. So, like, you're an Alakazam because you're really smart, stuff like that. It's, and then, like, dictionary of different things in the Pokemon universe. Now, this was pretty cool. Pokemon types. So, pure fire types with Venusaur for Charmander. How do you mess that up? You know, this might be kind of fun to go through this sometime and just try to find as many errors as possible. I know that M&J TV did that with a couple of the Pokemon books, and I have a couple of those Pokemon books. I might do that too. But anyway, I wanted to show that off too as another book that I have. Now let's move away from books and go back to toys. Some electronic toys that I have. So here is this Psyduck that I have, and well, the batteries are dead. Never mind, he works. Now, he's supposed to walk or something? Doesn't even sound like a Psyduck. I don't know what that was. Now, here's a Meowth. I don't think he still works, but I remember this Meowth. He said some stuff from the second Pokemon episode, basically Team Rocket's first appearance. Just remember, I'm the top cat. Meowth, that's right. We went from voice to foist, because that's the way he says it. But I don't know if he talks anymore. Here's a Mew. I don't think he talks. But he glows, which is pretty cool. I set out a bunch of these Pokemon toys in preparation for this video. And I'm going to bed, and I look over like, what is that thing that's glowing out in that corner? Oh, it's that Mew. Let's see if I can get him to glow. By the way, he actually is talking. It's very quiet. Well, that's kind of cool. I can't get him to glow. Well, it's kind of hard to see. But I turned off all the lights. And, well, you can see him. There he is. He's glowing. Trust me, he's glowing. And there was also this Meryl, which, yeah, I know, Meryl is Gen 2. But Gen 2 is right around the corner. This is 2000 here. And this one still works. So pretty much, Meowth was the only one. Now, Psyduck only kind of worked. He still talked, though. And of course, you can't forget the Pokédex. This is, of course, based off the one that Ash used in the show.
Nobody knows every Pokemon. Master knows. Who weighs more, Metapod or Pidgeotto? Pidgeotto by 44 pounds. Bulbasaur's height? 2 feet 4 inches. How does he do it?
Electronic Pokedex for Master Trainers from Abra to Zubat. Master 'em all.
Weedle's number? 13.
150 Pokemon with all the best fighting moves. Electronic Pokedex for Master Trainers. New from Tiger.
Although it's not full colored. But it still works. These are the original batteries from 1999 when I got this. But it's really cool. You have page, favorite, sort, capture, password, clock, and calculator. But you go to page, and you can either type in the Pokemon's name or type in their Pokedex number. So let's just do 25 for Pikachu. So you can see the name there, Pikachu. There's that. Height 1'4", 13 pounds. The mouse Pokemon, Strength of 9, I don't really get what the strength means. And it lists some attacks. So these are basically its first 4 attacks: Thunder Shock, Growl, Thunder Wave, and Quick Attack. And of course, first attacks of Gen 1, of course. And then Pikachu using an attack. And then when several of these Pokemon gather, their electricity could build and cause lightning storms. Now, I remember somewhere on this, it actually shows when I got this, which I don't remember my password, unfortunately, but this is really cool and a very sought-after item for any 90s Pokemon fan, both back in the day and any collectors of 90s nostalgia now. This is just a must-have for your collection. But I wanted to highlight that real quick. And it's in great shape, too. Another electronic toy, and I don't have it anymore, but I kept a couple of the Pokemon from it, because I didn't have them in any other format. But it was like these little Think Chip things. These are naturally Gen 2, of course. Here's a Misdreavus and a Sentret. I know I had a Heracross. I think there's a Houndoom I have in that container of stuff. I think there was a Cyndaquil. And you battle gym leaders and stuff. And, well, it wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, so I got rid of it. But a couple other electronic toys I wanted to highlight real quick. But a big one I want to talk about.
If you want the advantage while playing the Think Chip Battle Stadium, you've got to catch them all. Think Chip Pokemon figures. They store hit points when you win, making your Pokemon more powerful.
Pokemon.
Figures sold separately. Battle Stadium comes with 2 figures, batteries not included.
I remember the commercials for the Pokemon Battle Stadium. I wanted one so bad, and we actually found one at Goodwill really cheap. And you know what? It was complete too, and it worked. It even had the 2 original Pokemon that came with it in the set, which was a Geodude and a Squirtle. So how this works is, and it actually still works.
Welcome to Pokemon Stadium!
And so then it would decide for you on who goes first with these lights here.
Trainer, choose Pokemon.
So you would put the Pokemon here.
Hit point 7-3. Trainer, choose Pokemon. Squirtle. Hit point 6-8. Choose attack.
Yeah, so naturally Geodude goes first. So you hit this, and you try to get it as close to the center as possible, and that's a stronger attack.
Not much damage. Hit points remaining. 6, 5. Choose attack. Cannot evolve.
And after a while, you'd be able to evolve your Pokemon. Now, I don't have all of them from this set, but I do have most.
Hit points remaining. 7-0. Choose attack.
So, some of the other Pokemon I have,
Not much damage.
I've got a Jigglypuff.
Points remaining. 6-4. Choose attack. Cannot evolve.
Still can't evolve yet, huh?
Attack.
Got a Pikachu, and I usually use Pikachu's tail as the reset button on the bottom of it. Because you need like a screwdriver or something.
Oh, that did some damage.
I've also got a Bulbasaur.
Hit points remaining. 6-0. Choose attack. Evolve. Pokemon.
And you can evolve.
Whoa, it's evolving.
I might as well just go through an entire game here, because
Choose attack.
I've also
Oh,
got
that did some damage.
Charmander.
Hit points remaining. 6-1. Choose attack.
And I can also evolve, well, kind of evolve Charmander into Charmeleon. And then from Charmeleon into Charizard. Now, I say kind of evolve because for some reason my Charmeleon doesn't work. And I'll show that in a minute.
Not much damage. Hit points remaining. 8-8. Choose attack.
I'm waiting for a whoa, strong attack to come in.
Hit points remaining. 5, 8. Shoot, attack. Not much damage. Hit points remaining. 8, 6. Shoot, attack. Evolve, Pokemon.
Oh boy, Wartortle's gonna evolve.
Whoa, it's evolving.
This is gonna be overkill. I don't know if it takes into account type advantages or not, but
Hit points remaining. 1, 1, 5.
yeah,
Shoot, attack.
115 HP left.
Hit points remaining.
Oops.
1, 1, 5. Shoot, attack.
I don't know how good the quality of audio is on this camera right now, but
Hit points remaining. 5, 4. Shoot, attack.
yeah, so anyway, you get the point. And I'll just
Not much damage.
cut to the end or something, I don't know.
Hit points remaining. 1, 1, 4. Shoot,
Did that one
attack.
that did 1 HP. Wow, I'm terrible at this. Last time I did this, I got a few of these in a row of super
Hit
attack.
points remaining. 5, 1. Shoot, attack.
Oh, there we go.
Whoa, strong attack. Hit points remaining. 9, 9. Shoot, attack.
Well, that's decent.
Oh, that did some damage. Hit points remaining. 4, 5. Shoot, attack.
Well, anyway, you get the point. This is going to drag on a lot longer than I expected it to. So,
Replace Pokemon.
I'm just surprised that after all these years it still works. I had corroded batteries in there really bad. It took minutes to fix this. There we go. See, had to use Pikachu's tail to basically turn it off. Now, one of the other things that I got in relation to this was Ash's Talking Pokédex. So you, each Pokemon came with a card. So, like, here's Geodude, for example. You would slip the Geodude card in there, put the Geodude here. Well, okay, let me show you this first. Well, after working with it for a few minutes, I couldn't get it to work. But this is how it works. You put the Pokemon there, like that, and it tells you on, like, what Geodude is good against, strong against, and how much HP is left in relation to this game. Now, the weird thing was, for some reason, the Charmeleon figure just doesn't work. It basically doesn't even register there's a Pokemon on the Pokédex when you use it. And when you use the Charmeleon in the gym thing here, it would say wrong Pokemon. Like, even if you're evolving Charmander into Charmeleon, which, and for those who don't know Pokemon, Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, that's obvious, but it doesn't work on this. It would say wrong Pokemon. No, it's not. It's Charmeleon. It's not wrong. So, unfortunately, if you want to use Charizard, you got to start off with a Charizard instead of Charmander evolving it, which it's more fun to do that. Now, for those who are wondering what other Pokemon are there, there is a Raichu to evolve the Pikachu. There is a Wigglytuff to evolve the Jigglypuff. And there is a Graveler and a Golem to evolve Geodude, as well as an Ivysaur and Venusaur for Bulbasaur. So I've got most of these. And there were a couple for Gen 2. There was a Totodile, but that was weird that Totodile was the only Gen 2 Pokemon that was released. I don't know why they did that.
It's ThinkShip Ash.
I'm Ash.
He speaks over 100 phrases.
Cyndaquil. Attack.
Interacts with all your ThinkShip figures.
We won.
And boosts their hit points for the Battle Stadium. ThinkShip Ash comes with everything shown here. Additional Pokemon figures and Battle Stadium sold separately.
There was also an Ash that was compatible with these, but I never got him, unfortunately, but I do remember playing with him in the stores. Although I did see an Ash that came with a Cyndaquil, so I guess what I just said about Totodile was wrong. There were some that were planned to be released, like an Entei and a Heracross, but I guess this toy series got scrapped. And I know, I've been talking about Pokemon toys for a while, but my video wouldn't be complete without talking about Burger King. In November 1999, Burger King released a lot of Pokemon toys for their kids' meals. There were 59 toys to collect and ran until the end of the year in 1999. And yes, this is my poster, but it's weird I got this poster but never got any of the Pokemon from Burger King. All these that you see here, I got from Goodwill or from friends. We went to Goodwill a lot. And all these Pokemon toys came in a Pokeball like this. So you don't know what you got. All you know is that inside of the Pokeball could be any one of the 59 random Pokemon toys, and you open it up and see who you got. Also in 1999, there were a set of 6 golden Pokemon cards. Collect all 6. Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Poliwhirl, Charizard, Mewtwo, and Togepi. Each came with a shiny reflective Pokeball. I have one of the Pokeballs, which I got from, well, you guessed it, Goodwill. But sadly, I don't have any of the gold cards. I remember them existing, but I didn't want them back then because you couldn't really play with them. They were just cards. But these are all made of 23 karat gold. It's actually kind of cool, and who knows, maybe someday I'll get a hold of the whole set. Now, unfortunately, there was some massive controversy surrounding these toys, and I guess now is a good time to talk about that, along with other controversies that Pokemon faced around this time. Some of this I remember, but most of it I learned later, but this was all relevant during Pokemania. First, I'll address the Burger King controversy. On Saturday, December 11th, 1999, Jill Ann Alto left her children unattended for 20 minutes to go take a shower. Little did she realize in that 20 minutes, her 13-month-old daughter Kira got a hold of the red part of the Pokeball and put it over her mouth, which then suctioned to her mouth and sadly died of suffocation. On December 23rd, another small child, an 18-month-old, also nearly suffocated on the Pokeball. Fortunately, her dad saw what was happening and was able to pull the plastic off her face in time. The next day, Burger King decided to discontinue the Pokeball that came with the toys. Employees had to open all the toy packages and remove the Pokeballs and take them home themselves. This heavily impacted the campaign as to take away the surprise of what Pokemon came in the Pokeball. At the end of the campaign, over 25 million units were destroyed and was the largest recall of any children's product since 19 million swimming pool dive sticks were recalled in June of 1999.
Other controversies are of religious nature. Some Christian fundamentalists have accused Pokemon of being satanic.
He doesn't have 5 fingers like we do. He has 3. But if they were the 3, on us, they'd be this. And that doesn't mean hook 'em horns. Doesn't mean I love you. Doesn't mean one more. It means hail Satan. It's the satanic salute that all Satanists identify themselves with.
Some of them are demonic looking in nature, like Houndoom, yes I know he's Gen 2, was one that was referred to a lot in the early 2000s. I mean, his Japanese name was Helgar, that didn't help. But there was all the talk of evolution, of course, and the badges being talismans in order to control these creatures.
This stuff is nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft, and it's put in a child's form, designed to attack the child and the parents and the entire family that this thing is associated with.
There was also the Poke-Rap at the end of the Pokemon episodes when the line "Gotta catch 'em all" was played backwards. It plays "I love you, Satan."
Gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all, gotta catch 'em all.
Team Rocket's constant cross-dressing and James' infamous Beauty and the Beach moment becoming the first banned Pokemon episode is another thing, not because it's satanic, but it's way too sexual for this kids' cartoon and game. Speaking of the episodes, the episode Tentacool and Tentacruel was banned after 9/11 because the giant Tentacruel destroying buildings, despite that being shown every time the theme song plays. At least years later, it was put back in rotation. The thing that bothers me about this was the episode aired years before 9/11, and 2, that episode is important to the events in the Pokemon story, as that was the episode where Misty got her Horsey. Another episode that was taken out of rotation for a while was Tower of Terror. In the previous episode, Ash loses to Sabrina, and he was told that the only way to defeat Sabrina is to go to Lavender Town to get a Ghost-type Pokemon. Then in Tower of Terror, Ash befriends a Haunter, which agreed to help him take on Sabrina in the rematch. Then the next episode is the rematch with Sabrina. I remember enjoying that episode a lot as a kid, that whole 3-episode story arc actually, so you can imagine my confusion, no pun intended, that's a psychic attack, when it skips over that episode so Ash just happens to have the Haunter. But where's the Haunter episode? I didn't realize that was another episode taken out of rotation temporarily because of 9/11. Holiday Hijinks was removed from circulation. I remember I was able to catch that episode once on TV before it was removed. It was a Christmas episode where Ash needs to help Jinx get back to Santa so he can deliver presents to kids. But because of Jinx's original design of, blackface was an offensive stereotype to African Americans, even though she's more likely inspired by the Japanese fashion style of Ganguro. Anyway, that episode was removed from rotation as well as a couple other later episodes of Jinx for that same reason, and that's why her new design has her with her purple face. Mr. Popo from Dragon Ball Z was victim of the same treatment and was changed to bright blue, and man, that color hurts my eyes. I'm so glad that every other DBZ release has Popo in a standard color. And I'm also glad that I managed to get a hold of this Jinx figure of her original blackface design, because you can tell this is original. Violence was also a controversy in Pokemon, obviously, and so was animal abuse, so I'm not going to touch on those, we all know that. But the violence thing did affect another episode from being banned. The Legend of Dratini was another important episode in the story because, well, when I watched Ash battle Drake in the epic two-parter episode Hello Pumelo and Enter the Dragonite, Ash was seen using a Tauros. I had thought I'd seen every episode of the show at that point, but I was so confused, when did he get a Tauros? Well, in Legend of Dratini, he caught not one, not two, but 30 Tauros. And that was another episode that was taken out of rotation, but this wasn't because of animal violence or the standard censor of Misty slapping Ash. No, because the Safari Warden pulls a gun at Ash multiple times, and he even shot at Team Rocket too. So I guess that's the reason why this episode is banned and not Here Comes the Squirtle Squad, is because while there are plenty of guns pointed at Ash, not a single bullet was fired? Personally, I think that's kind of dumb anyway. I mean, who didn't grow up on Looney Tunes where Yosemite Sam was constantly firing guns, or Elmer Fudd hunting wabbits? But those are fine, but not Pokemon? The bullets missed too. And this controversy. Oh boy, here's a big one. Electric Soldier Porygon is the most commonly used name, but I think the literal translation is Computer Warrior Porygon. Only aired once in Japan and never again was so controversial it almost canceled the entire anime. The episode centers around Ash and group going into the computer to defeat a computer virus that was affecting the Pokeball transfer machine. He rides on the back of a Porygon in cyberspace. It's a pretty cool episode and might be why I like Porygon as much as I do. Anyway, towards the end of the episode, an antivirus, think of a vaccine flying through cyberspace to get rid of the virus, and thinks that Ash is the virus. Pikachu saves the day by thunderbolting the vaccine things to destroy them. The explosion causes bright flashing red and blue lights for 6 full seconds. That scene was pretty intense, not gonna lie. So intense that it sent 600 to 800 kids to the hospital for epilepsy.
An investigation's underway in Japan into why more than 600 children suffered from convulsions and vomiting after watching a television cartoon program. It's thought that bright, flashing lights in the cartoon, Pocket Monsters, were to blame.
The series had to go on a 2-month hiatus as they go and re-edit older episodes, toning down the flashing lights and even delayed the movie because of this process. They also put on episodes after that to make sure that you watch the show in a well-lit room to make sure this doesn't happen again, and poor Porygon was never featured in the anime again. Not counting the opening sequences to movies. And aside from the Johto Pokerap, including Porygon 2, Porygon's evolution has never been seen in an anime episode since. Oh yeah, the movie.
An unstoppable new enemy.
We dreamed of creating the world's strongest Pokemon, and we succeeded.
I was hyped for this movie. It aired in theaters on November 12th, 1999. Pokemon the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. I remember watching it on pay-per-view and taped it so I can watch it whenever, and man, it was an awesome movie. In my opinion, it still holds up, even if some parts of it don't make sense. Like, why would Mewtwo teach everyone this important lesson that Pokemon aren't tools for battle, only to wipe their memories of this whole encounter and lesson in the first place? I didn't think of that at the time, but it is a glaring thing that I admit now. But the animation, the soundtrack, the brother my brother part, man, the feels. Ash's return after he frees all the original Pokemon emerging from the smoke for that epic final showdown, so cool. Then you actually have him sacrificing himself to stop the battle. I mean, it's pretty intense for a kid-friendly Pokemon movie. We also got to see some payoff to things that were happening in the series at the time. Now, I saw the movie before these particular episodes, but I remember the part where Mewtwo was fighting a Nidoking and Arcanine and wondering, is that Gary? Then I saw the episode Battle of the Badge, where Gary is actually facing off against a mysterious Pokemon he had never seen before and warns Ash this Pokemon wasn't just powerful, it was evil. And there was another episode, Showdown at the Poke Corral, where Jesse and James are heading back to the base to talk to their boss, only to see an explosion and something fly off in the distance. And this movie is the payoff to these two random scenes. That was when Giovanni puts armor on Mewtwo to focus his psychic powers, and Mewtwo realized that Giovanni only befriended him to use his powers, and that's it. So again, it was so cool to see that payoff. I also remember the Pikachu short before the movie started, and we were introduced to the Pokemon Snubbull and Marill. And I remember flipping through my Pokédex book, and those Pokemon weren't in there. And during the actual movie, Ash battles a trainer who sends out this gray Pokemon I'd never seen before. I flipped through the book and concluded that it must be a Rhyhorn, since that's the only Pokemon that looked like it, but it definitely didn't look like a Rhyhorn. Watching that movie a couple years later, I realized he was using a new Pokemon not seen in the games, Donphan. Kids would go back to the theater to watch the movie multiple times, but not because of the movie. I mean, sure, they did watch the movie again, but it was to get the rare cards for the trading card game, which I guess will be the next thing I talk about. The trading card game, or TCG, while being a thing in October of 1996, it didn't hit America until 1999 by Wizards of the Coast. I'm not going to go into detail on how the game works because I didn't grow up playing the card game and don't fully know how to play the game except for when I'm playing against computers on the app I downloaded. It's fun though. I remember I saw some kids at daycare playing Pokemon cards, and I remember asking them if I could have one. Why I would even ask that, I don't know, but they actually decided to give me a card. So they gave me this Abra. This is the very first Pokemon card I ever got. I didn't care who I got. If it was rare, common, strong, weak, I would have been happy with a Magikarp or a Weedle. But I got that Abra, and the colors, I loved it. It was such a cool card. I remember going to Meijer, I think, and I got my first booster pack. I opened up to get my next 11, I think, cards. Now, I can't remember all the cards I got, but I remember I got a Water and Fighting Energy card, a Scyther, Oddish, Rhyhorn. That's all I remember, but the fact I can remember any card from my very first booster pack from 24 years ago is impressive. I also remember I had them in a drawer for a while and decided to get more cards, and my Rhyhorn card had evolved into a Rhydon card. I don't know how, because I knew exactly what the Rhyhorn card looked like. I knew it was a Rhyhorn. So how did I have a Rhydon? Weird. Anyway, they also made a Game Boy Color game based off the TCG.
Hey guys, get out of here. You know how to play.
Despite being made for the Game Boy Color, you can also play it on the original Game Boy. But it's kind of cool how it uses actual cards. And then the game actually teaches you how to play the game. There was a sequel to it called the Pokemon Trading Card Game 2, The Invasion of Team GR, but it contains nearly every card from Base Set, Jungle, Fossil, and Team Rocket. Since we're in the year 2000 now, let's talk about another big thing that hit in 2000.
Looms over this place. It's a battle for destiny, a battle for glory, a battle for Pokemon Stadium.
In February 2000, we got our second Pokemon game for the Nintendo 64, and we finally get a game where we can battle with our favorite Pokemon in full animated 3D for the first time ever. Oh, it was an experience to play through this. You can also transfer your team from red, blue, and yellow to this game, so you can use your actual Pokemon you trained yourself. And it has a bunch of mini-games too, which are fun. I didn't play this game for the first time until I went over to my cousin's house, the one who got the plush of Blastoise to be my plush Charizard. Yeah, him. He had a Nintendo 64, we battled in Pokemon Stadium, and it was so fun to choose your team to battle each other. I remember watching him play through some of the campaign as well. I think he was at the Elite Four. I didn't get a Nintendo 64 until over a decade after they came out, getting it in September of 2008, and I wanted Pokemon Stadium to be my very first game for it. Got my console for $15, I think, and I got the game for $25, and the guy might have cut a deal too. I can't remember, it's 15 years ago. But that game is a lot harder than I remember too.
Do you have the skill? Do you have the speed? Do you have the coordination to be Pokemon Puzzle Master? You have what it takes to face your toughest opponent yet?
Another Pokemon game that was released in the year 2000, also on 64, was Pokemon Puzzle League. Now, unfortunately, I don't have this game in my collection. Shocker, I know, there's not a lot of Pokemon games I don't have, but there are a few, and sadly this is one of them I don't have, but it's barely Pokemon. Its gameplay is similar to Panel de Pon, which in America is known as Tetris Attack. Since I've never played Tetris Attack or Panel de Pon or Pokemon Puzzle League, I can't really talk about it, but I wanted to mention it exists. Oh, but fun fact, it was only released in North America and Europe, not Japan.
Pikachu, let's play. Pikachu, dance.
I can't take it anymore.
Reel it in.
He talks to Pikachu, Pikachu listens.
Another Pokemon game released in 2000 was Hey You Pikachu. I remember the commercials made this game look a lot more fun than it actually was. John Cryer voices a dog jealous of a kid playing and talking to Pikachu instead of playing with him. I do have it though, and if you want to see me play through this on the channel, let me know. I just haven't played it in a long time because the novelty wore off pretty quick. It reminded me a lot of Pokemon Channel, which was kind of a spiritual successor of this game on the GameCube, and well, that game is barely a game, but it led to a fun recording for the channel, also featuring Citrus, so check that one out too.
All right, Delibird's here. Just in time for Christmas.
Yeah. This probably won't air before Christmas.
It could. The phone said okay.
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 Okay, Scott. From Amazon Prime with love. My people need me!
Pokemon got its second movie, which hit theaters on November 14th, 2000. Once again, I didn't see it in theaters, but I got it for VHS for Christmas and watched it that day and then watched it again the next day with my mom. And because of this movie, Lugia is still my favorite Pokemon. What? Lugia? Not Infernape? Not Rillaboom? Not Primeape? Oh, what do you want me to say? I like those Pokemon for the reason you think I do, but Lugia in this movie was so cool. Coming out like a vortex out of the water, that Hyper Beam blast toward the other birds at the end of the movie. So cool. I watched that movie so much I can probably still recite the Chosen One prophecy. If you know it too, let's say it together. Disturb not the harmony of fire, ice, or lightning, lest these titans wreak destruction upon the world in which they clash. Though the water's great guardian shall arise to quell the fighting, alone its song will fail, lest the earth shall turn to ash. O Chosen One, into thine hands bring together all three, their treasures combined tame the beast of the sea. This movie obviously takes place during the anime second season, the Orange Island Saga. We are starting to see some new Pokemon appear, and if it wasn't obvious yet, a new Pokemon game has to be coming. So far we've seen Lugia, Snubbull, Marill, Donphan, Elekid, Togepi, Ladybug, and this mysterious Pokemon that flew over the rainbow that we now know as Ho-Oh, although Ash thought it was Articuno, but we'll cut him some slack. It was like his first day being a trainer. We're seeing a lot of brand new, undiscovered Pokemon. I have this old Pokemon magazine, and it's showing off some previews of some of the new Pokemon, and even some of their names that haven't even been translated yet. At least Marill is Marill, and not his prototype Peekaboo name. Yes, that was a possible name for Marill.
You've conquered red. You've mastered blue. You've triumphed over yellow. You've caught them all.
Pokemon Gold and Silver were released in Japan on November 21st, 1999, then in America on October 15th, 2000. These say Game Boy Color on them, but Gold and Silver can also be played on the original Game Boy. I finally got my copy of Gold version when I bought it in late 2002. Since I've been talking for a while, I'll remind you, video games were forbidden in my house until I got my original Game Boy from a kid at summer camp in 2002. I got Blue version as my first game. My birthday in 2002, I got a brand new Game Boy Advance, and I got a Bionicle Game Boy Advance game with it. Now sadly, this isn't my original Game Boy Advance. I gave it to some girl who was the daughter of a couple that was in a Bible study with my parents. I had my SP at that time, so I didn't need a Game Boy Advance. Years later, I regretted that and bought this one. I wanted this color, as Glacier Color was the original game I had gotten. Shortly after that, I doubt it was 2003, but it could have been. It was either late 2002 or early 2003. I got Pokemon Gold version. I looked at my choices. Who do I want? I don't know these Pokemon like I did Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charmander. I don't know anything about these. I spent a bit of time thinking between Cyndaquil and Totodile, eliminating Chikorita for being too girly looking, and settled on Totodile as my starter. Totodile and I journeyed through the Johto region, and somehow managed to later acquire Chikorita at some point. So my final team in Gold version was my Feraligatr at level 62, Meganium at level 49, Ho-Oh at 48, Togetic level 46, Lugia level 86, and Umbreon level 53. Compared to Red and Blue, Gold and Silver were game-changing in a lot of ways. I mean, the inclusion of Steel and Dark types, which are resistant and immune to Psychics respectively, some decent bug types like Scizor and Heracross, breeding, day-night cycle, actual color, and, of course, once you beat all 8 gym leaders in the Pokemon League, you can travel to the original Pokemon region, now known as Kanto, and battle the 8 gym leaders from the original game. Okay, 7 of the 8 with Janine taking the place of Koga, but you know what I mean. And after you defeat all 16 gym leaders, there's still one more challenge for you. Travel to the previously locked Mount Silver, where standing on the summit with his back to you is Red. The silent trainer who you played as in the original games is your final challenge. He says nothing as he grabs his Pokeball as he sends out a level 81 Pikachu, the highest level of any in-game Pokemon trainer we've seen at that point, only to be beaten in levels by his revamped team in the remake games Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where his Pikachu is level 88. The only other Pokemon trainer to have something this strong is Cynthia's second rematch team in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where her Garchomp is also level 88. Wow, talk about powerful. And that's fully EV trained too, so I think Cynthia's a little bit stronger. But Gold and Silver were pretty amazing. But you know what's better than that?
Here it is, guys. Think you can unlock the mystery of the unknown? What do you think those strange markings mean?
Gen 2's yellow version, known as Crystal version. Unlike Gold and Silver, this game can only be played on Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance, of course. The Pokemon now move, their eyes blink, they jump, they breathe, only for a second, but they looked more alive. We also got a whole new staple that has been in every Pokemon game since, the Battle Tower. Fine, some games call it the Battle Mason or Battle Tree, but it's the Battle Tower. Crystal version was released on July 29th, 2001 in the US. So what was my team in Crystal? Sadly, I don't remember it as well. What I do remember is a Typhlosion, Noctowl, and Red Gyarados. Oh yeah, Gen 2 had alternately colored Pokemon you could find sometimes we now know as shiny, but I don't remember my whole team in that game, unfortunately. Maybe it's because I didn't get it until like 2003, and that same year Ruby and Sapphire came out, possibly. One more movie I want to talk about real quick is Pokemon 3 the movie, Spell of the Unknown. It hit theaters on April 6, 2001, and then home video on August 21st, 2001. I remember I saw this at a kid's house before I got my own copy of it, but what's really weird about this movie, my memories of this movie date before I saw Pokemon the movie 2000, and I saw Pokemon the movie 2000 pretty soon after it came out on VHS. But I remember these scenes of Ash flying on Charizard's back in the middle of some unknown, weird dimension created by the unknown, and I thought I was watching scenes from Pokemon the movie 2000, until I watched the movie, of course, and I was really confused of where are these scenes that I remember seeing the commercials for. Well, it turns out I was watching the trailers for Pokemon 3. Now, the thing about this movie, I don't remember it as well as the first two movies, because I didn't watch it as much. When I was younger, it didn't capture me in the same way that the first two movies did in some of the movies after that. But that's just because it didn't have the action that the others had. It's kind of weird in a way. This little girl's upset about her dad disappearing in some alternate dimension, and she dreams up this new world inside of her mansion created by the unknown, including a new father figure that is an Entei. And then when she wants a mother figure, Entei kidnaps Ash's mom and brings her back to the mansion as well, and Ash has to rescue her. Like I said, at the time, I'm just like, I don't really get it. It's kind of weird, and not that it was boring, it was just not as exciting. But now when I look back on that movie, I realize just how much feels, like the feels of that movie, just all it was this lost girl who just wanted her parents. It's a really emotional movie, and it's something I didn't appreciate then, but I appreciate a lot more now.
So, you want to use your gold and silver skills in a 3D world? Well, here's a thought.
Pokemon had one last hurrah on the Nintendo 64 with a sequel to Pokemon Stadium known as Pokemon Stadium 2. Same premise as the first game, only you have an extra 100 Pokemon to choose from, and of course battling the Johto gym leaders. I remember playing the demo of this game at Target before the N64 was being phased out, I didn't understand some of the mechanics since neither of these games featured the normal menu for swapping Pokemon, and I remember being confused on how to switch out Pokemon. Gengar's already out, thinking the game meant knocked out, thinking he's not knocked out, I'm looking at him right now, not realizing the game meant he's already out of his Pokeball. Oh, that makes sense. I was a dumb kid apparently. Pokemon was a massive phenomenon in the late 90s and the first couple years of the 2000s, but eventually the bubble had to burst. In 2002, while I was still a diehard Pokemon fan and a lot of my friends were too, it was becoming increasingly hard at school to be a Pokemon fan. We're growing up, getting older. The things we enjoyed playing in 1999, well, it's 2002, 2003 now. We're hitting our double digits in age. We're probably 11 to 15 years old now, naturally depending on when you were born, depending on how old you were when Pokemon came out. I lost count of how many times bullies in schools asked, "Are you playing Pokemans?" Or, "Do you still like Pokemans?" I had to constantly lie and say I don't play that anymore, just to keep from getting made fun of or bullied. In fact, it was so bad that even now I'm hesitant to bring it up around people unless they talk about it first. Then I say short things about it unless I'm alone with them, fearing someone would overhear me talk about it. Although I guess I'm comfortable enough to make a video that's who knows how long to post on the internet. Although I guess I am kind of anonymous. Anyway, Pokemon was just a taboo thing you didn't say or do unless you were 5 during the years of like 2002 to 2007 or so. I'll briefly cover the next 16 years, but in 2007, I saw people in my grade, in high school, playing Pokemon online, playing competitively, and it made me realize the Pokemon fandom wasn't dead. I mean, it clearly wasn't because Gen 3 happened and we're in Gen 4 now, and now Pokemon fans can battle each other and trade online, which is amazing. Pokemon had recently celebrated their 10-year anniversary in 2006 with the release of Diamond and Pearl, starting that before mentioned 4th generation. Pokemon had a brief Pokemania in 2016 with the release of Pokemon Go, which everyone, whether they were new to the series, played the games back in the day, or whatever, were walking the streets in real life to capture Pokemon. It might have been a short-lived phase, but that was a magical moment. I hadn't seen Pokemon as popular as it was in 2016 since 2000. It was so popular that Hillary Clinton even referenced it during election season to Pokemon Go, go to the polls.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
It doesn't matter what side you're on. That was cringe. And Republicans did the same thing. In 2012, Republican candidate Herman Cain quoted something from Pokemon the movie 2000. Just why? Politicians, please don't do that.
I believe these words came from the Pokemon movie. The media pointed that out. I'm not sure who the original author is, so don't go write an article about the poem. But it says a lot about where I am with my wife and my family, and where we are as a nation. Life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when there's so much on the line. But you and I can make a difference.
In 2021, Pokemon celebrated its 25th anniversary, and it was pretty cool too. I mean, all the stuff we got for the 25th anniversary: new Pokemon Snap, the first Pokemon Snap game since 1998, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, a controversial remake of Diamond and Pearl, Pokemon Cafe Mix was released, Post Malone had a virtual concert as part of Pokemon Day that year. And Pokemon is still one of Nintendo's best-selling, if not their best-selling franchise, and one of the best-selling franchises in the world. And that's amazing that I've been able to see the rise and the fall and everything in between since pretty much the beginning of its release in America in 1998. It has been quite the journey, a journey that I hope to not see end anytime soon. What about you guys? What were some of your favorite memories of Pokemania during the 90s and 2000s? Were you there from the beginning, or were you introduced to it later? Did my younger viewers have a similar experience but in a later year? What was that dark era of 2002 to 2007 like? Comment your memories and experiences below, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you're notified when another video comes out. This is by no means a Pokemon channel, but we do love Pokemon on this channel, and there is a playlist of Pokemon Channel and Pokemon Snap, which I can guarantee are a fun watch, and I'm also going through Pokemon Coliseum, a great GameCube game.
Because the explosion is under investigation, it should become apparent eventually. But I'm just imagining, like, you have this kid, he's like, I did that! Like, that explosion, that was me! And people are like, whoa, okay.
And if you want to see other Pokemon stuff, let me know on that as well. Maybe I can cover some of the other games I didn't mention here, or do a full Let's Play of one of them, or do a part 2 and explain my experiences of Pokemon during the 2000s to now, my experiences of Ruby and Sapphire, all the way to my experiences of Scarlet and Violet. Let me know all that below. I also have a Facebook page where I post my videos to, and an Instagram where I talk about video games. I pick a random game from my collection and talk about it, give a paragraph of history, and maybe spark a conversation with you guys in the comment section. And most importantly, I have a Discord where you can join me and my community where we talk about Pokemon, anime, video games, share memes, occasional anime watch night if you're into that. It's a fun server, and if you want to join, just comment that you want to join my Discord and I'll send you an invite and join this community of nerds where we have fun, hang out, nerd out. Until then, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And there were also these 3-packs that came with this little Game Boy launcher. So, an example of a 3-pack that I actually still have. This Master Ball's rolling all over the place. There we go. Oh, it's still rolling. I guess I just gotta take that out of frame.